right, good morning once again and welcome back. This is TV47 Breakfast. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. We now want to discuss something else, something that probably you've heard about but never probably decided to go that route. We want to talk about wills, trust funds or trusts, and wealth preservation. It is one of those topics that we just see on the dailies and rarely talk about. To help us with this conversation is this gentleman, Anthony Odhiambo. Anthony Odhiambo is the Executive Director and also a Corporate Trustee at Octagon Africa. Karibu sana, Anthony.
Thank you, Fred.
Probably because we're talking about wills, trusts, probably start with wills so that we can differentiate between the two and why you would need either one of them.
Okay.
Or both.
Thank you, Fred, for having me.
Yes.
I think before I go to the meat of the matter, I think it's just good to reintroduce myself.
Yes.
My name is Anthony Odhiambo, Executive Director at Octagon Africa, basically heading the corporate trustee services. Under the Octagon Africa umbrella, we do so many things. Part of it is pension administration, corporate trustee, matters to do with investments, training all through. So Octagon Africa is the umbrella, the holding company. So with the privilege of basically now doing the corporate trustee. As you've said, life is a journey. And life being a journey means that when we talk about wealth starts from, there are three things that I'll be talking about. There's the accumulation, there's the deaccumulation, and then there's the preservation. Okay. In actual sense, the preservation comes at the tail end of it all.
You must acquire the wealth first.
Exactly.
If you have no wealth, this discussion is not for you.
The discussion is null and void for that matter.
Yes.
So the accumulation basically starts from the time we get into employment or you start a business, and basically you're looking at the tools that are available for you to start accumulating. If you are in employment, then the issue of the salary. Then from the salary, you start saving into either pension scheme, you do what we call the MMF, all these other products that are available basically to start saving and making sure that you start building that wealth slowly. If you are lucky to have actually hit the jackpot and went into business, then from there, once your records are kept well, then from the profits, then that's how you start accumulating that wealth. So at Octagon Africa, then basically we're looking at that journey from the accumulation stage, then the decumulation stage. Let me take you through the accumulation stage. For corporate trustee, what basically we do is to ensure that there are those that we work with, there are those institutions that do not want individual trustees. So we do corporate trustee services for them. So we are the trustees for their pension scheme, right?
What is a trustee?
A trustee is an individual or an institution that has been bestowed with the responsibility of fiduciary responsibility to take care of assets that perhaps might not be theirs. You can be part of the assets, or you can be a beneficiary of those assets, or not necessarily a beneficiary of those assets. So because of that trust, that's when you are given that the responsibility to do the trusteeship. Yeah.
Okay. So what does a trustee do? Okay, fine. Like you're a trustee in a corporate organization.
Correct.
Yes. What is the job of a trustee?
Now, the job of a trustee, one of the key jobs is oversight. From the corporate level, where now you are managing schemes, your oversight is to ensure that all the service providers, the model of schemes in this country, you have the administrator, you have the fund manager, you have the custodian, you have the retirement benefit authority, who is the regulator, you have the auditor, you have consultants. So your role as a trustee is to ensure that you oversight the people who are actually doing the day-to-day operations of that scheme.
Isn't that what the executive director does? Or how do you differentiate between now in this case you're both the executive director and a trustee?
Now, being an executive director, basically now the title, because I head that unit, you understand? But now when I sit on a board, I chair the board of ensuring that now I do the oversight of what these people do to the scheme members. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, then we work with members or individuals from the time of their employment through the scheme. Now, over and above that, because under the corporate trustee again, we have a very unique product called Hakika Trust Fund. So over and above making sure that we are the trustees of the schemes, we have an Hakika Trust Fund that basically now deals with death benefit issues. And I think we are one of the few institutions in this country, because under the Octagon Trustee Services, we are registered way back in 2009. So that is close to over 17 years in existence, because we foresaw this coming. Now, if you look back on the matters of trust, in many cases, there has not been a law, especially on death benefit issues. It has been handled under the Succession Act. Very good examples.
Death benefit meaning once someone passes on.
Correct.
What happens to their wealth?
To their wealth,
Yes.
yes. Now, so under Octagon Trustee Services, we do the corporate now for the schemes, and also now under Hakika Trust, we also manage now death benefits for those who had now passed on.
Okay.
But over and above that is just to ensure that there is that fiduciary responsibility to make sure things are happening right.
So definitely this customer of yours or client of yours is
Correct.
now dead.
Yes.
Meaning they must have procured your services when they were alive.
Now, for the death benefits, the client do not necessarily to have procured. Okay, there are two ways into it. For most of the schemes, the pension schemes that we have, the trustees, individual trustees for those pension schemes, they have been given the mandate by the Retirement Benefit Authority to actually, in case of death of Anthony, then they can look for a trust fund in a situation there are beneficiaries who are below the age of 18. So in that effect, because if I can take you back, Fred, before the regulations basically empowered trustees to exercise their discretionary role, any death benefit that could have occurred in an institution, and specifically pension scheme, many cases ended up in the government trustee. And I can tell you for a fact, because I have a very bad example with the government trustee, in that there are instances where those benefits could end up there, but the rightful owners of those benefits failed to get them. Why? Because of the family issues. So somebody actually go ahead of the people who are supposed to present themselves to get those benefits. The reason why I'm saying I have a very good example. There's an auntie of mine who died. It's now 2007, 2008 thereabout. There were certain benefits actually that were accrued, that were supposed basically to go to the beneficiaries. Now, when we went to the file of the HR, and he identified the people who had been nominated. However, the persons who are nominated in that beneficiary form, they had separated with them.
Okay.
You get it? HR did not do the due diligence. They ended up pushing.
Because not even been updated.
Yeah, they ended up pushing the money to the trustee, the government trustee. And when this guy got the wind of that, immediately he went, pursued the matter there. But behind the scenes, there was a child whom basically we were living with. So who was the rightful owner of those monies? Because this child was still in class 4. So those monies are actually supposed to take care of the child. So the guy took advantage of that, you understand, went for the money and left the child hanging. Now, in that case, for now schemes, that cannot happen.
Okay.
The trustees basically have the discretionary role to ensure they do the due diligence, get the rightful owners of those monies. So at the end of the day, it is paid to the persons that benefit the most.
All right.
So in that case, then, that's how now we've come in to establish the Hakika Trust Fund that has been able to manage those kind of funds. And within the Hakika also Trust Fund, we are now trying to come up with the Living Trust, which now we'll be talking more about on how to go about it. Because the Living Trust, basically what it means is that you and I, we are still accumulating that money.
We're still alive.
You are still alive. And now going back to the question that you asked, as seated here, do you have a will? That's the question.
And you talk about the disputes that arise,
Correct.
especially after someone passes on, and what happens to the wealth.
Yes.
And that's why I started with who needs a will.
Yes.
I think you were best suited to explain to us what is a will,
Yes.
and how it differs from a trust. Because in a case where both are present. This person, before he passed on, he had left a will. Does the trust fund or the trustee still come in, and to what extent?
Okay.
So as you described to us, Kwanza, what is a will? At least now we've understood what a trust is.
Correct.
Then how do they work together or not?
Or not. Good. You know, a will is a document that I prepare in the anticipation that in my absence, because a will only be read when I'm not there.
Okay.
Unlike a trust that is a living structure. You know, a trust is a living structure because I can set it up today, know exactly how many assets, how much of my assets I can put in the trust. Can I be a beneficiary of those outcome of those assets as I move forward? But a will, I prepare in anticipation that, well, I'll not be alive. It will be deposited with either my lawyer or a church, wherever it is. It must be witnessed by people who could have seen that actually Anthony made a will. But at the end of it, opened and then read to the family members. Always happens, it could happen 2 weeks, 1 month, depending on the grieving period of the person who passed on. Then coming to state exactly what were my wishes and how will I wish to have bequeathed those benefits or those assets to those people. A trust can be in a will. I've seen wills that also have trust, which the will states that in case I pass on, all these assets, these particular assets, I need them put in a trust. And in that trust then, he chooses the trust, you chooses the trust that you wish those assets to be managed from.
Yes.
So it can be either. A will can have a trust in it, but a trust in itself, I think, as I said, is a living document and a living structure making sure that things happen. Now, in this country...
Do they ever conflict that you have a will here, but then, like in the case you mentioned,
Yes.
that someone has passed on, or there's a young child who's not recognized somewhere?
Yes.
If at all there was a will,
Yes.
would it have sorted that out, that issue?
Not necessarily. You know, people look at things from different perspectives. There are people who have will and trust, and they will speak totally different things on what he has in a trust. So depending on how much, you know, the thing is, how much do you have? How much do you own as a person? And when you're looking at, you go back and looking at the family setup. Fred, all these things is coming as because of trust deficit in families. And I think this is one area that we need a lot of engagement with families to ensure that people know exactly what they're supposed to do. Because as I said, if you start with the accumulation part, you know, people will tell you that accumulation, you know, you are looking at the opportunities. I was just reflecting back and saying, I've been part of the Octagon, yeah, being founder members of the Octagon Africa. And I can tell you for a fact, wealth creation is sticky. It's painful. It takes a long time to create wealth.
Blood and sweat.
Blood and sweat.
Yes.
I think if you have information that basically come from all the readings we do, they tell you that it takes you an average of 28 years if you are just doing accumulation the normal way to actually start feeling the wealth. 28 years. You understand? How will you want to accumulate the same within a very short time and end up with nothing for preservation?
Okay.
Now, those are now the nuances.
The accumulating is losing the same wealth.
Now, exactly. The accumulation now means, for instance, you've worked. If we pick, you hit 60, you retire. You look back 30 years down the line. Which areas have you been accumulating? Number one, it will be your pension. Definitely, you'll be looking at your statement because now you've retired but not tired, as they say. You are 60 years, you've hit the statutory retirement age, right? But you look at your statement at that particular moment and say, how much do I have? Do I have? Remember, statistics all over show that because of the improvement in life expectancy, currently, you know, I was wondering, it is interesting that in the 50s and even 60s, life expectancy in Kenya was around 41.
To that lawyer?
Yeah, 41 years. Currently, if you look at the demographic data, we're at 68. Women are doing even better because they are the people who are actually doing 67. Men, we are at 60. Now, that notwithstanding, with the improvement in health and everything else, treatment of malaria, things that used to basically kill us every other moment.
So we'll now live longer.
We are living longer.
Yes.
Living longer means when you hit 60, you have another 35, 40 years to live. Now, you start the accumulation. If you did not save well, you had your pension, you had other tools, other vehicles of saving. Getting to your 90s or even 95, just give and take, your 90s could be a very big challenge. So in that then, as Octagon Africa, we work with you in that deaccumulation again. Okay. And there are those actually schemes that now they have annuity, because like now the personal pension plan, umbrella scheme, what we call the IDD schemes, the IDD schemes. Now we work with you to just ensure that what you had accumulated, you also don't accelerate it's finishing very fast.
So how does this differ from the investment plans that we are always sold to by insurance people, that this one will start paying you slowly in periods of 10 years, 5 years, because I can hear in the, what do you call the?
IDD, the annuity.
Yes.
Yeah. On the accumulation.
The accumulation. How does it differ?
Now, that's the reason why, in your accumulation period, you need to know exactly what are you signing for. Because one of them, for those of us who are privileged to be employed, one of the saving is basically a retirement benefit scheme, right? But you need to go beyond that. Because as you're aware, Fred, and the listeners, Kenya, we are still low on saving. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we have. In East Africa alone, we are doing 12%. 12%. And that one, we are only picking the current 6% that people are complaining about NSSF.
Yes.
Yes, the 12%, the statutory one. Because now when you go deep to institutions, because remember retirement benefit, it is not guaranteed under the Employment Act. Okay. So it is the institution basically to see what other benefits will lie as an add-on to you. So if you have that, if you're saving for retirement, that becomes one. Then you need to expand your areas of investment, and that's now where those products come in. Because if you take a life insurance cover, if you take, for example, an education policy is more or less a life cover for you, just in case you run under a bus, then your child will go to school. You understand? So there's need for all of us to know what product are you signing to and what is the long-term objective. And
all this will be handled under this umbrella of the trust.
Exactly. Now, the good thing is, because under the trust that we can currently handle, we have trusts that have a component of pension, a component of group life. This is Anthony Paston. He had a pension, he had group life because the company had taken a GLA for him, group life cover for him, or WIBA or personal accident. And for that matter, all this money is combined. Then we look at the setup of the family. If they are beneficiaries, then all this money go into a trust fund. Okay. Now, under the trust fund, now we start administering to know how many members are there, how many children did you have, the youngest, how old. Then those components are distributed as per the ages of these children. So that it's the key objective of the trust fund is to take care of the youngest child to the highest level of education. That's the key objective, number one, is that this child can get to the highest level of education.
Whether I had a will or not. Because maybe in my will I described how I want it done. Will the trust consider that?
Okay. For these particular cases where now the trustees have the obligation to pass on the money to a trust fund. But in a situation you don't, and you had a will, and the will stated that you want the money to go into a trust, then it will be handled the same way. So depending on what exactly structure you had put in place, then we can see how to handle. A very nice example, I think in 2021, an employer calls and tells me, Anthony, we have a case here. This guy served us well. However, he's passed on. Unfortunately, the amount that we have is not that much. It is only 500,000. There's a spouse, there are 2 daughters. These 2 daughters had actually just cleared their KCPE. They are joining high school. With that, then we took a risk and say, let's see how it's going to be. So 2021, when they joined in with 500,000, we did our analysis, sat down with the spouse, and told her, okay, this is very little money. The spouse was not gainfully employed. What she used to do is just, the small things that you do, hand-to-mouth thing. Even feeding the family was an issue. So with that risk, taking 500,000, 2 kids to take through high school, I can tell you for a fact, our analysis based on what income is coming in, the kind of secondary schools they need to go through, I can report here confidently that we were able to take those young children, young daughters through high school. They cleared on 500,000, but by the time they were clearing, the residual amount was very little, around 15,000, which we paid them out for one of the kids who wanted to start school, a salon. Now, you can see where there's discipline and trustees are involved in ensuring that the life of the people who are left, actually, it can happen. Because I believe you me, Fred, if I give you 500,000, school fees, give and take, each child per year 100,000. How long will it take you to take them through? Within the 3rd year, they will have dropped.
Yes.
But with discipline, knowing exactly how it's supposed to run, that has actually happened.
Does it mean that as a trustee, you get to reinvest these amounts to make profit so that at least you can expand it, you can do a bit more?
Exactly.
Okay.
Our role as trustees, if possible, is to grow the money. And our wishes always is if you come back after we've taken you through school, secondary, even university, you can even get the whole money back.
Let me take you back to where we started, and you talk about this individual and he's still alive.
Correct.
He decides that all his wealth will be handled by a trust, meaning that it continues to grow.
Yes.
It continues to grow. Does it mean that he continues monitoring? Does it mean that he can benefit from that money even before his death, like for whatever interest has come in?
Yes. The good thing with a living trust, Fred, is that once you sit down and look at what you just need to do is to look at your cash book. There are so many things that we don't look at. We accumulate assets, leave them all over. We never put them in a cash sheet and say, I own this, I own that, I own this, where is it, what is the value today? And from the assets that you have, how much can they generate? Now, when we receive money into the trust fund, the cardinal rule number 1, that money must grow.
Okay.
It is invested. And in actual sense, it's from the investment income that we are supposed to meet all the obligation of the trust. Our own analysis from the trust funds that we currently handle, if a trust fund can only be able to expend 10% annually as an expense from the fund, believe you me.
For administration?
No, everything, paying upkeep, school fees, and any other incidentals. There are many trust funds that have come back and we are almost having an equal amount 10 years down the line when we brought it in. What it requires is discipline. And as a live trust, you can actually put a stake and say, Anthony, I know my rental income is giving us this much. But now because it is handled under a trust, so apart from the salary I get, I also need 20,000 more to be able to get my things moving. That's the beauty and the advantage of a living trust.
Because we're talking about wealth, and wealth is not always in liquid cash.
Correct.
There are other assets.
Correct.
Which are not necessarily bringing in money. How do you handle that? Like a property, like residential houses that I could be living in my own residential house. Can I leave it to be managed by the trust?
Correct. Correct. We'll actually first of all do valuation of those property. Once we do valuation of the property to get the real value, then we take them on. Now, there are those properties that basically are not earning, let's say for land. For land, when you bring it, we now handle it as trustees, yes, but we know that the only thing that will be adding on it is when we do revaluation from the last time so that we can get the real value. Okay. But currently, we have trusts that have rentals, and those rentals are giving income.
Yes.
So what we've done is that for those that give rental income, we've already actually also outsourced property management. So what we tell you, Fred, yes, we know you have property XYZ. This is the total rental income that comes through. We have a proper property manager to handle them. So we take you off completely so that you don't become the part and parcel of those properties. So the property manager, number one, is to ensure that those properties are fully occupied.
What if I need to liquidate at some point? I say, okay, fine, I'd given this to the trust, but I think I need to liquidate at
you
this
can,
point.
You can. That's the beauty of a living trust, is because we are managing with you. You know, you are able to be given reports, and also you are looking at, let's say you had a property, and now looking at the yield, the rental income itself, it's not making sense. And we are saying, okay, you come and we discuss and say, what do you want to do? Then you can liquidate, basically. Either get money back or do whatever you want to do. Then it will be removed out of the assets of the trust. Yes.
Right. Let's, for now, take a break on the description of a trust and how it's run. But I just look at the Kenyan society as it is. Because we talked about wealth.
Yes.
If you look at the poverty index, it means that quite a number of Kenyans are not that wealthy.
Correct.
So who are the kind of people, and I'm talking about individuals, that take up this, that come to you and say, okay, fine, I would want my wealth under this trust?
Very interesting. How I wish the whole of Kenya could come. But unfortunately, that's not possible. Number one, I know there's lack of information. You know, when we talk of the Kenyans who come, most of them are in the formal sector. If you look at the statistics, when you are told by KNBS that they are over 18, I think the employed, the people who are working are more than 20 million, right? Only 3 million are either saving for retirement. You know, these are the people who are exposed to information, because through those particular vehicles that they have information on trust and everything else. These other 18, because you are a Juakali guy, yes, you make money, but you see this as very foreign. Number one, the kind of language we take out there is for the literate.
Yes.
Not the illiterate. I'm saying that those are illiterate people, but that information does not sync the way it's supposed to sync. So there's need basically to look at avenues on how this information can go out. But just to answer your question, the people we deal with is these people, the formal sector. Secondly, is business people who have actually now either traveled and have friends who they've now learned how to manage properties and assets. These are people who can easily come in and see how best they can be onboarded into a trust fund. So, formal sector, informal sector, not quite, but there's a lot that need to be done. What they just need to do, because these people have properties here and there. Actually, if you go into the informal sector, these are the people who, when they get out of their gigs or they get out of their Juakali, is saving for a property in Nanyuki, is saving for a property in Kajiado, they are saving for a property in Kamulu.
So many people are wealthy,
yes,
even in the Kenyan context. Exactly. They just don't understand how they can benefit from a trust managing their wealth.
Exactly. Because even from, and I think you've looked at the Act of 2021, that actually any assets that are transferred into the trust fund, you'll have that tax relief and everything else. You are exempted from tax, not tax relief, but exempted from tax from the property you manage with the trustee. And even from this act, the finance bill, now that the president has just ascended to, they've given a tax exemption to death benefits that come into a trust. Because before, the death benefit used to be taxed. Then what we get into the trust fund is the net of tax.
Basically more like an inheritance tax. Once you inherit something, you're subjected to tax.
You can say an inheritance, because if I die and my spouse and children, basically, I have pension that originally was supposed to be taxed.
Okay.
But at this moment, because of the government goodwill, those benefits are not taxed. Imagine if it was 3 million, just do like 20% of 3 million, they could have lost like 600,000. Now that you get it fully and you start benefiting it. So the government is also doing a lot to ensure that those areas, especially when it comes to benefits for death, beneficiaries actually get reliefs.
And now that you're on that one, that
Yes.
bit of the benefits that can accrue from having your property or your wealth managed by a trust. You've talked about coming from creating the wealth itself, managing the
accumulation.
The accumulation, I keep losing that word.
Yes.
And even now dispensing after death.
Correct.
And dividing it.
Yes.
What other benefits accrue directly? Why should I bring my property or my wealth to a trust fund? I could work it as a businessman and earn the profit myself.
Fine. Number one, as we speak today, I have a family. The entire family setup, from their father, mother, their brothers, everybody died. This is a family that had a lot of property, Kisii and all over. One of the sisters bore a child with a man who is claiming stake on this child. But you find that at the time of that childbearing, he was not responsible. What we did, because there were a lot of court cases, and you know now, as a father, you have a child, and because you know the mother is no longer there, so you have a stake. The moment you pick the child from that auntie, you have a free entrance to whatever belongs to that child.
Yes.
What we did was just to transfer all the properties that belong to that deceased lady to the trust fund. Now, if he has any issue, he has to deal with the trustees, not the... So that's another very good benefit in that, first of all, you are dealing with a professional. Number two, these legal issues, which we are very good at as Kenyans. You know, anything small, you run to a court. Yeah, this is my child, those things are...
You don't consider mila na tamaduni zetu that if at all we were married at some point, there's what society believes.
Correct. We need to break those jinx of society. I think I always say that, it reaches a generation that we say that things must happen the way they are supposed to happen. Because if we stick to that narrative of mila na utamaduni, what has happened? Many of us and many children would have actually not gotten education if it was mila and utamaduni. So these are things to make us purpose.
Are those challenges that you encounter in your day-to-day
They are there.
work?
They are there. The good thing is when you call people in, tell them straight on the eye, this is the position, look at the greater good. How many times have you gone to a funeral and you are told, oh, we'll take care of this, don't worry about school fees? Call after 6 months. Was school fees paid? No.
And you talked about a funeral. I was at a funeral the other day, and this gentleman, his known family was there. But you know what happens in Africa? Another family appeared. Does the trust take cognizance of such things? Because yes, it could be polygamous situation.
Very good question. A trustee's role, fiduciary, first of all, is fairness. You must exercise fairness at all the time. And those cases are there. Just giving an example, one of the trust funds that we actually onboarded, the breadwinner passed on. At this particular moment, we have individual trustees from the schemes now who wanted to transfer the money to our trust fund. So one of the things trustees are entitled to do is due diligence. Because at funerals, Fred, you could have known me with one, the one that you know.
Yes.
But the one that you don't know, you don't know. But at the time of my interment, basically they appear. So at that particular moment, it is the responsibility of the trustees to ensure that they do due diligence to get all the people who are aligned to Anthony.
Okay.
So in this case, the guy had a first family. Actually, they have grown up children and spouse. And they left, they separated. So children grown up, they were all established wherever they are. Then the person now we knew was the younger wife. So at the time he was passing on, you understand? Now, at that particular moment, this young, the second spouse, the second lady was still young, children still young, most of them in primary. I think the eldest was in secondary school, for that matter. So with that setup, what needed to happen is now to call for a meeting for the whole family. As much as we knew the second, you cannot go and exercise, pay her without involving the first one. So we had a meeting, sat down, put everything on the table, discussed with the wife and the children.
And the other family?
Yeah, the other family, all of them. Believe you me, actually the first family said, for us we are good. We appreciate the fact that our dad took us. We are all independent. Please, that money, leave it for our younger brothers. Now, that's the thing. You understand? So that fiduciary responsibility go beyond. To an extent, you must manage the families. You must manage the families to get it right. Or else you'll end up in court again, that you've actually discriminated against the other family.
That means that as a trustee, your work is way beyond just looking at the property. It's even handling domestic issues as well.
It goes to that level. It goes to that level. At the moment, I'm proud father of so many boys and girls who are finishing school, who are in high school, who are in colleges. I get reports because one of the things we've done as part of just ensuring that the trust are handled well, before we actually pay second semester, whatever semester fees, we must get report cards. How is he performing?
Okay.
Because we don't want to an extent, you are actually putting money and you don't see the result.
Okay.
So in that sense, it means I get involved in the life of the beneficiaries. To an extent, actually even guardians say, please talk to this guy.
Yes.
Talk to this young man.
It's beyond just managing the wealth.
Exactly.
But there's this idea, and I've heard it even on TV, when people describe others as, that's a trust fund baby. What does it mean and why is it considered negative?
Trust fund baby.
Yeah.
I think, okay, if I got it right, perhaps they are saying that you got it easy. You understand? You know, being a trust fund baby means your school fees were being paid in time.
You did not bother to manage the
exactly.
wealth. It just came to you.
You know, you just, for us, what we do, you go to school. Once you furnish us with the fee structure, we pay school fees directly. So there's no any one time that you'll be ever chased out of school because of what? School fees. So perhaps that's what they are saying. But in that also, we talk to them and tell these young men and women, remember, if it was not for your dad or mom passing on, you couldn't have been where you are. So to put them steadfast to ensure that they are steady and more or less take responsibility. Because sometimes I ask them, just imagine your dad was around. What could have happened? Because you know, when you are alive and when you are gone, those are two different things. There's a way you handle issues as a parent. So trust fund babies, that's basically what they are trying to say. But they should not do that. The thing is, they need to be encouraging these young men to be people of responsibility. It is just by virtue of the fact that it is so sad that, yes, one of the parents passed on and their upkeep and school fees was taken through by the trust fund.
Yes. Now, of course, you talked about the kind of policies that exist, and this keeps changing with every year and different discussions. Are there legal gaps or challenges in as far as legislation is concerned in administration of a trust fund? Yeah, trust fund.
Okay. Let me start from here. As Octagon Octagon Trustee Services, the corporate aspect, already that is for managing schemes, for being a trustee of scheme, that's already under the purview of the Retirement Benefit Authority. Okay. So we are one of the 8 corporate trustees licensed by the authority to do that work. For the trust fund, Hakika Trust Fund itself is registered by the government and can own property on its own. So which means that we've actually looked at the governance structure and ring-fence it to ensure that we are operating above board. I know for the longest time, as I said a while ago, was that most of the trust funds were basically anchored on the Succession Act. However, the same government, I think there's a bill, I believe there's a bill on trust administration that I think by last week, I think so, it should have been out for public participation. So the government is just looking at how do we come up with good governance structures so that even those trusts that are managed either, there's a way you can, Fred, you can say, Anthony, I trust you, so be my trustee. But I'm a human being.
Yes.
If there's not good structures, you never know. You never know. Because I know this is in the public domain. Let me just pick this one case for the late Njenga Karume.
Yes.
That is in the public domain. You know what happened there. But when I listened recently, there's an interview that was being conducted, and one of the grandchildren actually came and spoke about the trust fund. The key thing is good structures.
Yes. What was the main problem with the trustees at that time? I think the question was around the trustees and their behavior.
The thing is, Njenga, I think Njenga Karume saw the future before his time, because of these wealth management issues, from his business and everything else. And that's the reason why families need to do an introspection. How are we? Do we trust each other? In case I'm not there, can things run the way they're supposed to run? So Njenga, the late, appointed his friends, as trustees. By that time, he was also part of the management of the trust fund. So by that time, he could actually, with his friends as trustees, they could sit, write checks to those who need to do. Then when now he passed on, the friends took over completely the running of them. And I think that's where the problem was. Because as I said, we are all human. And perhaps, you cannot be me. And the way my people see me, you cannot fit my shoe. And that's where the issues are. But those who are sorted, and currently, believe you me, they're happy. And even the grandchild said, if there's anything he can advocate for, is to have a trust fund. Because he saw what his grandfather did. So these are not things that are coming from heaven. These are not things that are so, we could say they are so Western. They are with us now. We are the generation that must change the narrative. And the narrative is, Fred, is that in your journey of accumulation, deaccumulation, and preservation, what kind of legacy? I know when I talk of legacy, there are people who say, what about legacy? Why can't you just look for opportunities? But when you look for those opportunities, will you want that when you are gone, those opportunities, whatever you had accumulated, within 2 years, 3 years down the line, they are not there?
I like the example you've given of this former cabinet minister, and that he appointed his friends as trustees.
Correct.
How does that differ from now the kind of structure you provide? That if I come to Anthony, it would be better, as opposed to giving my brother the role of trustee?
The good thing with a professional corporate company, we are not friends. For me, I know you from the perspective that you had decided that you want your funds managed in a trust. There's that arm length, there's that respect, you understand? For your friends, they know your people. So there's a way they can manipulate and basically come up. So what we are looking for is professionalism. And that's what we need to advocate across the country, in that the trust funds that are there need to be managed professionally. When you come to me as a trustee to dispense with what you require within the trust fund under the confines of the law.
That takes me to these people who live outside Kenya.
Correct.
But have a lot of investment here. And many of them trust their relatives to take care of a property they've never seen, wanatumia tu picha. How does this benefit such a group?
I've heard of those stories, and sometimes it's demoralizing. You cannot have flown all the way from Americas or the West. You are doing yourself, you are doing the best you can, knowing that you want to invest back home, only for people to take advantage. And it is an avenue, because through the trust fund, you are dealing with a corporate. If Anthony is not there, there'll be somebody. For your relatives, they can go to the neighbors, take a picture, send it. If you come, they disappear. Where will you? Number two, that relationship, it means you're burning bridges. But for a corporate trustee, my friend, Octagon is going nowhere. Octagon is registered.
Even if Anthony leaves, someone else will be there.
There's succession. There are people I work with, and their role is to ensure that we actually administer the trust funds the way it's supposed to be. And that's the difference, the night and day between trusting family members or having a professional running. It is not bad to trust family members because, yes, you trust them, but there need to be that element of respect and discipline. Because, as I said, wealth takes time to accumulate.
Okay.
Why will you want to just ensure that they go down the drain within a very short time?
A lot of Kenyans are in the US, in the UK, working and sending money back home. But there are those who are not probably doing professional jobs. They're just doing menial jobs, but they still get money,
Correct.
especially in the Gulf countries and stuff like that. Are they some of those clients that you deal with, or is there a gap in the levels of understanding between people in a different geographical position and others?
No, I like that question. And I think as an industry, now when I talk of the industry, means the pension industry, you've realized that we've come up with products that basically speak to diaspora. And we are now trying to get over and above saving for pension. Now we are trying to get them even to the trust fund. Because as a kicker trust fund, I'll really love to see somebody working in the diaspora. You call it annuity, bringing money slowly, saying, I want to open a living trust fund. This living trust fund, I'm making money. I want to be accumulating for a while. When I come, this is what is supposed to do. So yeah, there are those avenues. And we encourage those people who are working beyond Kenyan borders to ensure that they embrace the products that currently the industry has. One of them is the living trust fund that we offer as Octagon Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
It is said that the number of wealthy Kenyans is growing slowly and slowly. Does the uptick in trust fund or trust services, is it growing in the same along the same curve?
Not really, because the number that is growing, Fred, if I know you know this, in that it is only 1% of wealthy people who own the wealth in the world. Those number of Kenyans who are wealthy, how many billions do they own? The GDP currently, I believe now, based on KNBS, is around 20 trillion, thereabout. So the uptake is still not very much. Most of these people, they are big families. They are families that had created wealth long time ago.
Super rich families.
Super rich families they are in billions. As much as we are a middle-class country, and the middle class is growing, but that uptake is not still commensurate with what we require. And that's the reason why these platforms basically speak to those people, in that as you try to accumulate, you need to look at that decumulation and what will you be leaving in terms of passing it to the next, to the preservation. Fred, come what may, legacy is a must. Speaking as Anthony, I could speak of, from my maternal side, I think there's one of my grandfathers who actually did well. And we can see the product today. Because out of that wealth accumulation, and he was able to put in structures, the family from that side, they are able to be taken to school. The guy passed on in 1972. To 1972, how many years down the line?
It's almost 50.
57? Yeah, thereabout. So you can see that if you think well and have a mind of things beyond you, people never suffer.
All right.
But if you just think here and now, it cannot even live to see the second generation.
If I look at the kind of people we have in Kenya and the level of earning they have, the question then would be, how low can you go as a trustee or a trust fund? How low can you go to accommodate these people? Are we saying that at some point, for anyone to be eligible for such services, there's a cutoff?
We will wish to take everyone. Unfortunately, there are also administration fees. So for that fact, what we are trying to do is open a living trust, which you can build it up.
For wealth creation.
For wealth creation. Just the same way, I know this money market fund has been a bust. It has been a bust in this market. Currently, we are close to 1 trillion. But even through the trust fund, and I think I've gotten those kind of questions, and I'm just telling people, we don't want a cutoff. However, start building small. Just the same way you want an education policy for your child. Say that I'm opening a trust fund, and because the trust fund's role is 3 things: education, upkeep, and hospitalization, medical, if possible. But we are for education. Start building small, which means we can take the lowest of the lowest, because money will never be enough, Fred. For those who are earning 20 and for those who are earning $1 million, if you're not disciplined in between, the result is the same.
So this product is available for even someone who earns 20,000.
Exactly. Start building small. What we just need to know, what is it for? We'll manage the trust fund with you as a person who basically have a financial goal on what you want to achieve.
So as we come closer to the end of the interview, the future outlook of these services, I can see that insurance uptake is growing, but what do you feel will happen going forward, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, in as far as trust funds are concerned?
No, there'll be growth. There'll be growth. One thing that I can tell you for sure, I think the industry is awoke. And the generation we are getting in is not like us and our fathers and the rest. As you are aware, this generation, let me speak of now the Gen Z, they are not like Fred, who will accumulate and look for land. They don't want it. They're now looking for apartments. You can see that shift. Now, looking for apartment means that you have enough information. You know exactly where the apartment is, what it will cost, will you live in it, or will you want to rent it out? With the same trajectory, looking at the financial sector, that's where we are headed to. Because these people will be looking at now, when I'm not there, many of them or many of us were saying, as much as, yes, I come from this region, but I want to be established here. At the time now, I want to be resting and doing whatever I do. Who is this person that I can trust to ensure that he runs my property, I have my cash flow without iota of doubt that I'll get it at the right time. And yet, we are here to basically take it to the next level. So, insurance uptake, retirement benefits uptake, corporate trustee uptake, those are things that I see actually culminating into bigger and bigger as we move along. We want to be like South Africa, where trust funds own properties, and from those properties, beneficiaries are getting more money into their pocket without having to work. And that's basically the thing we are looking at. We want to be like when we talk about the Western countries, they've built trust funds that basically can see them generation to generation. Speak of Ford Foundation, speak of all these companies that had, even Coca-Cola. It is through the trust fund that basically runs the businesses. So it is something that we need to think of and just see how best we can handle.
You talked about the regulation of the sector, and concerns are that sometimes anything can happen. You may have all your wealth under trust, and then something happens to that trust fund itself, probably a corporate organization. For insurance, we have reinsurance. What do we have for trust funds?
Trustees also take indemnity, just in case something happens.
Okay.
So we are indemnified.
So it's already insured.
Yes. So you cannot run away from risk. Risk is just how do you manage it. And part of good governance is to ensure you are indemnified. Just in case of omission or commission, then the insurance comes in to fill in the gap. So we are protected. And as I say, believe you me, unless the world sinks. And so the key thing is, as I close, the thing is, do you want to leave a legacy of errors, or do you want to leave a legacy of error? So there's between EROOR and ERA. So which legacy do you want to leave as you try to bequeath that wealth to the next generation?
Call to action. People don't know where to
get us.
Yes.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, we've been around Octagon Trustee Services and Octagon Africa. We've been around for 20 years. You can actually hit us on info@octagonafrica.com, or you can do an email to trustfund@octagonafrica, or just for corporate trustee, you do CT@Octagon Africa, and we'll be able to pick you up and see how do we journey with you in this matter of wealth management.
Wow, wealth management. It's what people talk about every day. And as you say, yes, different generations deal with wealth different ways, but even as you continue, there's new ways of doing it. And you can consider trust funds, or having your wealth, creating your wealth under the trust, managing the wealth, and also disbursing it, preserving it. Yes, it has to do with preservation of wealth in Kenya. Wills, trusts, and wealth preservation. Anthony Odhiambo is Executive Director and Corporate Trustee at Octagon Africa.
Thank you.
Asante sana for this conversation. I hope we have more of such, because this is one topic that many people do not understand, but one topic that we need to discuss more and more nonetheless. After the break, we'll be having a repeat of what we had earlier. But until tomorrow morning, my name is Fred Ndimuli on behalf of the entire team behind TV47 Breakfast, including my co-host Anno Dida. Good morning.
Thank you.